Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys, and we want to thank Luke. He is our newest Patreon.
Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Luke. Even though we are not your father and mother, we do appreciate you.
Indeed, we do.
Absolutely, guys. All right, so I'm going to start over here. This is an update to Inappropriate Content Policy, February 2024. And, it's, I guess, causing some speculation. I just saw my feed, and Rex over at Leak Project just made a video talking about this and saying, what does Google know that we don't know? Because they're updating their policy yet again. Do they know that there's going to be some significant events in 2024? And they want to kind of head us off at the pass with our ability to report on things that are buzzing out there. Because again, what you get and what we've gotten from official sources time and time again, it's not necessarily so accurate. Certain things come to mind. I'm sure you guys have a lot of things in mind with that too.
Yeah, it's all about seeding, getting us ready for this, getting us ready for that. And, what we do is not very popular with anything mainstream and big. So I imagine we're going to be under a microscope.
So here you go. What's a sensitive event? It's an unforeseen event or development that creates significant risk to Google's ability to provide high-quality, relevant information and ground truth, and reduce insensitive or exploitative content in prominent and monetized features. During a sensitive event, we may take a variety of actions to address these risks. Examples of sensitive events include events with significant social, cultural, or political impact. Well, that's everything. Civil emergencies, natural disasters, public health emergencies, terrorism, related activities, conflict, mass acts of violence. So that's most of the news, basically. And again, this is exactly what we are up against. Examples of what we prohibit: products or services that exploit, dismiss, or condone the sensitive event, including price gouging or artificially inflating prices that prohibits, restricts access to vital supplies, sale of products or services which may be insufficient for the demand during a sensitive event, using keywords related to a sensitive event in an attempt to drive additional traffic, claims that victims of a sensitive event were responsible for their own tragedy or similar instances of victim blaming, claims that victims of a sensitive event are not deserving of a remedy or support, claims that victims from certain countries were responsible or deserving of global public health crisis, etc. So, when you talk about exploiting or condoning a sensitive event, then really you're going to need to put tape over the mouths of every politician on the planet for one thing. And as we are starting to understand just how much they profit from inside information and war. In war, is it not a sensitive event? Well, how about the trips to Tiffany's there for Mrs. Zelensky, etc.? It's just...
Poor Mrs. Zelensky. Poor Mrs. Zelensky. She must have really felt terrible about that she got caught.
Oh, yeah, that she got caught. Yeah. No, Nancy, too. Okay, onward. The wind chill. This is the current wind chill right now. We could see some pretty darn cold temperatures. Look at these up in Montana, 52 below. I don't know how you guys do it. North Dakota, 40 below. These are wind chill, feels like. But we're going to be getting really severe cold. As you can see this from the Weather Channel, Arctic cold outbreak could smash all sorts of records, all the way from Washington State down to the Gulf Coast. Yeah, it just seems like every time I check the forecast, it keeps getting colder and for longer. the planet's most abnormally cold air to surge into the lower 48 states. Yeah, and if you are in, say, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, in the middle, here in the lower part, yeah, it's gonna get challenging, and it does feel like it's gonna be so reminiscent what we were talking about 13 days ago when we talked about this weird anomaly that just popped up right at the North Pole. And, our impressions were that this is technology that's interfering with the polar vortex, and we're going to end up with one of these events where it all heads south, and it's going to give us this again, which was that topsy-turvy polar vortex that brought record freeze to Texas and literally killed a ton of people, because it's not usual. And when you are in structures that are not used to like actual temperatures around 5 degrees or maybe 0 or maybe even below 0, it's just a recipe for disaster. It's one thing when you're used to that and everything is built to code, say like Japan with earthquakes. And it's something else when you don't usually get that. This is going to be all the way down to Mexico. And this is exactly what we were talking about 13 days ago, saying, this feels like it's going to be that event all over again.
It does. It feels like it's going to be that again, and now moving forward, all I'm thinking about is, am I talking too much about a sensitive event? I don't know.
It's a potential sensitive event, I guess, right? Well, and this is Kristi Noem, who is the governor of South Dakota, posting, saying when the federal government fails, the states must step in. Southern border is at its breaking point. Yeah, been there for a long time. And she's just basically praising Greg Abbott for taking the bull by the horns at this point, so to speak, and literally taking control of the border with Texas troops, Texas National Guard, denying regular Border Patrol agents access. This is Shelby Park in Eagle Pass. And again, this is part of the Great Divide, the Great Split. This is what 2024 is all about. It's about just kind of disintegration and conflict. And Border Patrol chooses sides after Abbott seizes land and overrun Eagle Pass. Again, the amount of people in this country illegally is just staggering. We were talking to one of our family members who, as we were talking to him, he's right there, close to the border, lives in let's just say the greater San Antonio area, know them very, very well, wonderful couple. And what he's getting from people that he deals with is all along the border. What are they seeing? They're seeing Chinese nationals that they know are military. And this is the reality of it. This is an invasion. When we've been saying this for so long, you guys are probably tired of us saying it. But it's just, again, we have to be as prepared as possible for what's coming, as it's obviously going to be a year full of, let's use one of their own terms, shock and awe.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to create our own Pig Latin vocabulary words. We're going to have to create our own new code of how we speak. And I know you guys have been really cool hanging with us and working with us in because we already have to speak in code. And I think it's going to get a lot worse. So, if nothing else, at the end of the day, I guess we just have a new fun language that we've all founded together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Department of Homeland Security issued a emergency overnight filing to the Supreme Court to block Texas from taking over border operations in Eagle Pass. You can't make this up. Yeah, this could be a landmark case. The U.S. government is attempting to stop Texas from allowing people to come in illegally. Well, it's pretty obvious. Don't got to be a brain surgeon. And the scary part is, even when you get to certain levels and you start to meet brain surgeons and things like that, or rocket scientists, unfortunately, they're not always as swift as you would think. They know what they're taught. Yeah, they know what they're taught. And this is what we have with basically the higher echelons, whether it's geopolitical or corporate. So Texas Supreme Court refuses to allow petition for independence referendum to be on the March primary ballot. There has been a movement for years now for Texas to become independent and break away. And, can you imagine if, the Crypt Keepers, Senior Poopy Pants, if something happens and they say, okay, 4 more years, there's not enough bridges for people to jump off of. It'll be a mass migration the other way, just out of the country, and it'll just be chaos because, again, most people still believe that presidents actually have power. And, they probably do have a little bit of power, a little say in certain minor things, but...
What color do they want their birthday cake?
Color for birthday cake? Yeah. Color for the candles on the cake?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Which cute little imprints are going to be on there depends, and etc. Meanwhile, the House panel is holding first impeachment hearing for Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. Ah, yes, impeach Mayorkas. Again, it's just a matter of when they trigger the war, and then again, everybody is dodging bullets and just simply trying to stay alive. Meanwhile, as the system has been exposed for what it really is, more and more people are waking up. Then you have the Democrats proposing a bill to neuter militias. As you know, they want to stop the Second Amendment per se. And again, militias who, as this article says, like to spend their weekends training to overthrow the government, could find themselves running afoul of federal law. Well, again, you do have statements attributed to the Founding Fathers that simply say, that the government needs to be monitored because power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And, there would be nothing stopping a government if the citizens were totally disarmed. And, again, we look to Australia and New Zealand and some other countries where, we've seen just lockdowns like you can't believe. In certain countries, say in Africa that comes to mind, where people have been slaughtered in massive numbers. It is a recipe for disaster, and yet we need to really get outside of all these boxes. I understand that there's a definite desire to go back to what was originally intended by the Founding Fathers. But you have to also take into consideration that the Founding Fathers themselves, a good portion of them were either slave owners or they were part of a secret society, as so many of them were Freemasons. And when you really look at it, what really happened? The true power structure didn't really change with the freedom of the U.S. It's just that somebody else becomes the new world's policeman. Melrose, Massachusetts is holding an event called Exploring the Host Home Experience. So they want residents to house illegals in their homes. It's nice to do nice things for others, absolutely. But when you look at what's going on and this mass shuffle, what was that word? Round robin that you picked up from the guides.
It was round robin, and if you look into those rules, it gets curious.
It is. It's very, very curious. So when do they evict people from their own homes for one reason or another? And at the same time, you have certain places that are paying for 2 years' rent. So, illegal migrants can be housed in Maine, for instance. There was one town that was offering 2 years of free rent. Now, people don't want to identify with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party because they're getting so frustrated. That's actually probably a positive thing because, again, do you want to choose our paid-for person on the left or our paid-for person on the right? Either way, you're choosing somebody that has been paid for. When you see the lobbying, which is another word for bribery that's legalized, they do cover their bases often with these corporations giving, 3.5 million to one side, 3.2 million to the other side. Either way, it's okay. They're still going to get their way. But the takeaway is that people that don't associate with either party is now the majority, and there's more independence. Well, if we could get the majority or close to half to recognize that the entirety of the system is just shot. And this is that article I was referring to. Maine builds new apartment buildings for illegal immigrants with free rent for 2 years. Wow, that's nice. And then we have this.
Yes, we definitely have the dinosaurs to blame for humans aging faster. And then there's that. And of course, they're going to throw this in there. I do believe it does have something to do with reptilians, but I don't know that it's this.
No, and they just make note that, humans tend to age, and it's obvious that we age. Our looks change. It's not the same with reptilians, or reptiles, I mean. Let's just say reptiles.
Yes. We're being insensitive.
Yeah, I'm being insensitive to Draco and the like and the other reptilians out there. Well, it has to do with being a mammal, they say, and it's interesting, really, the way that they word this, because I almost feel like, gosh, somebody's either intuning something, because the reality is, we don't age like this in other ages. And whether you're looking at the Greek myths or the Vedic, they talk about us living lives, many times the life that we're living now. And in fact, there is reason to look at it and say, you have amphibians that lose their tail and it just grows on back. We do have a reptilian part to the brain. There's really no reason why we age the way we do. We also have most of our DNA that's been kind of turned off. And so in reality here, no, it's not necessarily what they called this new theory, a longevity bottleneck hypothesis, which is that mammals face strong selective pressure to evolve rapid reproduction when dinosaurs ruled the earth. Okay, there's just so many of them. They're so big, we have to outnumber them so that we can survive. Yeah, okay. No, second chromosome fusion. Yeah, I think there's something going on there with genetic engineering, that we've been engineered to have short lifespans. It even says so in the Bible. It says God won't strive with man anymore. His years will be no more than 120. That's genetic engineering right there. And that was done to this version of humanity. And as we have said, their ultimate purpose right now is to create a new one that will even have shorter lives and be even much more controllable. Isn't this is legitimate, this color? Isn't this amazing? This is lava from Indonesia's Kawah Ijen volcano. Electric blue in appearance. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Electric blue, and it is very, very, very hot. Probably the hottest color that you can find when it comes to fire and things of this nature. So I just think it's one of Earth's more beautiful wonders that she can do things like that.
And talk about a wonder. This is so cool because this is talking about honeybees. Now, you might have heard that bees really should not be able to fly. And in this case, they actually say, well, they don't really fly. What do you mean they don't fly? Well, there's no way they physically can support their chubby little bodies there, especially when they're going to add to it going out and getting their pollen. The significant weight, which might double or more the body weight, which is already too much for the size of the wings to really, cause them to fly. So what are they doing? They're resonating. This is just amazing stuff. They're changing their frequency. They're literally vibrating in such a way that's causing them to levitate. And as they're showing they go in perfectly straight lines and come back in perfectly straight lines. And this gets me thinking about, again, free energy and some of the ships that we see out there, the UFOs, that it's like they're creating their own little mini wormhole in front of them. And in fact, Nibiru does have a black hole it utilizes to propulse itself, throughout space, which is really more of a liquid. It's not really a vacuum. But here you have nature. It's just fascinating. Again, how did they do the pyramids? How did they do the big blocks? It was through vibration. And here they're showing the tuning forks. And I'll give you guys the link so you can watch it for yourself. It's about 3.5, 4 minutes long. Good stuff.
Oh, it was really fun because I think they said in there that these honeybees, they can carry like 90% of their weight. And if you look at their little wings and you look at their little body, it's obvious that they really can't support that, but they hover themselves and they resonate themselves to their surroundings. So when they are tracking them from point A to point B, they show that they're flying right straight through 30-mile-per-hour winds, and they don't even budge. They don't move. So it's like they set this vibration in place, which sets like an orb in place, and they're just protected in their little orb. So, it is like how orbs do. And then you got to think about vibration. It's just such a curious thing, because if you change your vibration, your surroundings are going to change as well. And, it goes back to what we're always saying. Do your mantras, meditation, and your prayers, because it helps.
Yeah, there's a scientific basis for that. And yes, we're aware that so much on the internet is really an illusion. But the reality is, yes, there are so many different beings watching us all the time. Mr. MBB had another bunch of photos up that were fascinating. We'll pull them up maybe tomorrow to go over it, because it's a whole bunch of ships that are watching us. They're watching us. So yeah, you will have some that are obviously CGI'd and played with, but the reality is, no, they've always been there. They've always been there watching us. And the system can't release energy sources that are completely clean and free, because, again, where's their ability to control us? It goes out the window. Just like knowing, okay, you mean I could heal myself potentially with just fasting, with getting rid of certain toxic foods and maybe the use of certain frequencies? Yeah, it might not be overnight, or it might be overnight. You never know. But at the same time, when you look to what the system gives you, does it ever do anything but just cover up symptoms? Or anything positive, I should say. Positive.
Right. So whenever you just cover up symptoms, you still have the underlying issue carrying on and wreaking havoc in your body. So that's why it's important to get to the root of the problem.
Absolutely. And get out and play with Mother Nature. She appreciates it. And, it's so good to root and ground out in nature.
Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.